There was a time when life felt simple, in a way my mind could barely touch now. Before the weight, the noise, and before the ache that settled into the corners of the heart, I remember a version of myself who woke up without armor, who stepped outside and greeted the day with bare skin and unguarded eyes. Sunlight didn't just land on my back then. It knew me. It kissed my face, warmed my shoulders, and whispered, "You're safe here." Back then, a friend was actually a friend. You didn't study their tone. You didn't analyze their motives. You just showed up. You laughed until your ribs hurt, ran through the streets or fields, scraping your knees, and believed that loyalty meant something permanent. Love still had a shine on it. It wasn't a transaction. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a performance for an audience you'd never meet. Love was a hand on your shoulder when you were scared, a shared secret on a summer night, the feeling that someone would stand beside you even when you had nothing impressive to offer. There was a world before bills, deadlines, priorities that never fed the soul, when you could sit in the back seat and let your forehead rest on the window, watching the clouds drift by like living hieroglyphs, and your biggest concern was whether the day would last long enough to play one more game, tell one more story, or chase one more sunset. There was a time before screens started raising us, before social media pretended to be our compass and our conscience, before the glowing rectangle told you who you were allowed to be, what beauty meant, what success meant, and what kind of soul you should compress yourself into just to feel accepted. I remember the days before I knew too much, when innocence covered my understanding like a blanket. I remember believing that adults had answers and that the world had a structure that made sense. I remember the magic of small things, the smell of rain on hot pavement, the sound of familiar voices calling my name from another room, or the feeling of being called inside when daylight finally surrendered. That version of life had its cracks, but it carried a purity the current world rarely shows. Sometimes I sit with all of this and ask quietly, where is all this heading? What is the meaning of it now? Because the older I get, the more I see how much has been taken, how much has been altered or inverted. Sometimes I wish I didn't know the things I knew, that I had never pulled the curtain back, never studied the circuitry behind the performance we call reality. Sometimes I wish I could look at this world and see what everyone else seems content to see. A flawed system, sure, but harmless enough to swim in without thinking too deeply. But my spirit won't let me. We were never meant to be plugged into a machine pretending to be life. We were never meant to trade spirit for simulation, presence for performance, or intuition for algorithms. I look back now, and I see the moments where my own light started to dim. I see the shows I watched, the scenes I replayed, the images that slid past my defenses and took root in my subconscious. I see how they shaped my desires, how they rewired my appetite for chaos, and how they taught me to laugh at things that scar the soul. I see the music I grew up on, the rhythms that trained my nervous system, the lyrics that wrapped themselves around my mind, beats that felt familiar, yet carried stories that deteriorated my spirit little by little, until self-destruction sounded poetic and numbness sounded normal. I see the lust I embodied, thinking it was expression, power, or freedom. I didn't realize every choice was programming me to be something darker, feeding a grid designed to harvest the very energy I thought I was enjoying. I remember institutional halls that claimed to shape my mind, rooms lined with chalk dust and stale expectations, voices raised on authority rather than overstanding. They spoke as if knowledge lived in their walls, yet everything they offered pulled me further from the truth already glowing inside my chest. They taught by confinement, repetition, by the slow erosion of instinct. Not once did they ask who I was, only who I would become under their guidance. The message was always the same, even when the words changed. Silence your intuition, ignore your spirit, absorb the script, and perform the role. And still, through all of that, I was guided. When I look back with clear eyes and I see how many times I should have lost myself completely. I see the nights I shouldn't have survived, situations I shouldn't have escaped, the people I was protected without even knowing I was being shielded. I see an invisible hand that kept pulling me out of places my ignorance walked me into. I overstand now. I am the most divinely favored being in the cosmos, and so are you. The Most High has never stopped directing my steps. even when I was walking in the opposite direction. That's why we never fit in, no matter how hard we tried. We weren't built for the counterfeit life. We weren't born to be swallowed by a culture that's forgotten its own soul. Something changed. The days grew shorter in ways the clock can't explain. Time started racing, years passing like weeks, as if someone tampered with the tempo of this realm. The more I woke up, the more obvious it became. You can feel it in the way people move. And here we are, children of the light, walking through a system that was never designed for our flourishing. Sometimes the awareness itself hurts. Sometimes knowing what this world really is feels heavier than the illusion ever did. There are days I whisper to myself, I wish I didn't see so clearly. I wish I could unknow some of this. I wish I didn't feel everything so deeply in a place addicted to numbness. And then I remember, my sight is a gift, sensitivity is a compass, and this ache is proof that my spirit remembers a different way of being. I wasn't brought here to endure this place. I was brought here to remember what life looks like when it's aligned with the Most High, and to embody that memory in the middle of the distortion. So I honor the innocence I had, and I honor the wisdom I carry now. I forgive the version of me that fed on poisoned music and shallow validation. He was doing the best he could inside a maze that was built to confuse him. And now I choose differently. Now I walk differently. And now I love differently. I move slower. I listen more. I choose what I consume with intention because I know every sound, every image, and every thought is either nurturing my spirit or draining it. And I speak to you as someone who has stumbled, someone who has fallen and gotten lost, and still found his way back to the path marked by light. If your heart feels this, you're not broken, you're not late, and you're not strange. You're actually early. You're awake in a sleeping world. You're proof that the design of this realm cannot suffocate every spark it tries to bury. We carry a responsibility now to live slowly in a world racing toward nowhere, to remain tender in a culture that glorifies hardness, to protect our inner child while standing as warriors for our own soul. We are here to be a reflection of what life is supposed to look like. Humility will set you free, discipline will sharpen your spirit, and love will bring you home. In Lakesh.